basement. Level vibes with another one. Straight up. Blackness, aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
It means that we would not have gotten the statements of poll for every polling station. To be honest, the People's Republic Party have only a handful of statements of poll. The people who will have statements of poll for all the polling stations would be the large parties, which would be the Coalition and the PPPC, because they would have been able to send scrutineers to all the polling stations. So let me say that that verification process that we are hoping GCOM will have to return to complete will be largely between the coalition, that is the SOPs that the coalition has, and the SOPs that the PPPC has. Because the small parties only have a smattering of SOPs. Now, having said that, let me let you know that we small parties were given handouts with collated versions of the SOPs. We were very kindly given, because when we said, well, because we didn't have scrutineers at all the stations, I can tell you that one of the big parties very kindly offered us copies of a handout that had collated the results from the SOPs. Now, let me tell you, in the spirit of transparency, that as the presidential candidate for the PRP, I had a look at those results. It wasn't an in-depth look because our election agent has that collated copy that we got from one of the big parties in her possession. But I can tell you this much. When I had a look at it, I was surprised because I saw results on it that did not bear out the results that I had from the smattering of SOPs that we collected at the polling station.
In other words, you know what she's saying there. She stopped short of saying directly that the PPP gave her, or representatives of the PPP gave her, a copy of SOPs. And the numbers on the SOPs did not match. It didn't add up to what they, the small parties, collected, the actual results. And so she knew something was up there. But as a pastor, she doesn't want to come outright and say that it's the PPP that actually gave her those fake SOPs. And I want to ask you this question. The so-called the Kangaroo Commission of Inquiry into the 2020 March elections that the coalition won, the APNU-AFC coalition won the elections. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They won that elections. Square, without any doubt. And so this regime in Guyana was actually installed for oily reason. But what this woman just said there, Pastor, she basically said that the PPP gave her those SOPs and they didn't match up to what they had. Now, the Commission of Inquiry, they're calling almost everybody in the opposition. But I'm glad that a couple of the folks in the opposition are not going to be testifying. It's a waste of time. And so I salute those individuals who have refused to testify, because it's a fake Commission of Inquiry. The PPP just wants a particular result. Now, ask yourselves this question. Why is it that they're not calling this particular woman, who happens to be a pastor, mind you? Why aren't they calling her to testify? And why do we have to hear a bunch of irrelevant matters? We want to hear about the SOPs. We want to hear about the allegations of the cooking of the books and what allegations that they have made against Mingo. Nothing has come out so far. Absolutely nothing. All we're hearing about is a bunch of rubbish. I don't want to sit, mind you, I don't sit and watch that. I have far better things to do with my time. But I'm not going to sit and hear a former commissioner of police said that he sent his guys them there and they defied his order, and somebody else said this. This is look, if I want to watch comedy show as what is happening at the Commission of Inquiry, I will watch Square SpongeBob or whatever it is, or these cartoons, man, right? I watch something, Peppa Pig or something. I'm not going to watch the Commission of Inquiry. It's a farce, people. It's a fake. It was set up so that it can tailor what the PPP, the installed PPP regime, what they want you guys to hear. I'm not buying that, man. I've been around bush cook too long, and I know that they're bush cooking right there with the Commission of Inquiry. All right, good evening to you guys. Just thought I'd get that out of the way. We have lots of things to talk about. I'm all by myself this evening in the studio. Of course, I have you to keep my company along with Lemon. Good evening to Lemon, busy at work on the other side of the studio. If you haven't heard it from me before, Happy New Year to all of you, and we want it to be as prosperous as possible. But when we watch what is happening in Guyana, the question is, how can we just say Happy New Year to people? How can we just say that we want it to be prosperous when nothing, absolutely nothing, is looking good? Save and except for those big boys and girls who have been installed into office and who suddenly have become the rich kids on the block, so to speak. All right. Let me say good evening again, and thank you guys for sharing the link. I noticed some of you guys with your cartoon shows. You know some of them, Family Guy. I forget a lot of the cartoon shows, lots of them, but I like some of the reminders that you guys are giving us here. Tom and Jerry. Yeah, Tom and Jerry. Anyways, thanks again for sharing the link. Let's get straight down to business. You know the situation with this lady, whoever she is, brave enough to sit there, to stand up for her right. She's not a member of parliament. I'm sure she's not an elected official. She's not into politics, but she's brave enough to stand up against those vindictive men and women in blue who were sent there to do an illegal task. I don't know. Don't you? Don't you wish if a member of parliament had done that? Trust me, I would have been standing here in studio and I would have been saluting the member of parliament in the opposition who did this. But this is not a member of parliament. This is not someone there to represent your interest or my interest. It's just an ordinary citizen of Guyana who is brave enough to stand up for what is right. Her rights, and not only her rights, or the residents' rights. Those who were afraid to stand up, and those who are supposed to be standing up for your rights and are also afraid to stand up. They just want to do sweet boy and sweet girl's job. Just show up on the scene, take a quick photograph, and rush back on social media, rush back on Facebook to chit-chat a bunch of unnecessary nonsense. That is what most of them do. But let's get away from the opposition politicians for now. We will deal with them at a later time. And trust me, we will deal with them because they're underrepresenting the people. Most of them are. And those who are doing something, we will salute them. Member of Parliament Nima Flew Bess. She deserves to be recognized. She deserves to be saluted. And for that, I want to say Nima Flew Bess. It's not Nima Flew Bess in the photograph there. The Honorable Member of Parliament is brave enough to stand up against those individuals, those vicious cops who were in her constituency, in Mocha, to illegally evict those residents who have been there. Some of them have been there for quite some time. And so I don't want some of you guys to get the impression that I'm just going to bash the opposition MPs. They're lazy. Most of them are lazy. It's a fact. And we need better representation. We need better individuals as members of parliament to represent our interests. These guys just not doing that. We see some trench croppers right away that they can't have a proper discourse, especially the quote unquote men in the PPP. I don't know what's up with some of these guys, I mean, it's like they suffer from some sort of inferiority complex or some sort. Is everything for them is a sexual nature. Every single thing. Anyways, we all know why too, right? Always coming up short. We all know why, but let's ignore those trench crappos. Thank you so much, Lemon for throwing them right away in the trench because we're not going to be distracted tonight at all. So Nima flew best. Congratulations to you, and we salute you. And some of the other brave members of parliament, not the bulk of them, some who get other jobs and they put their jobs for the other jobs first, and member of parliament, and then they put on the big makeup and they put on the big, you know, discolored shirts or whatever, and sit down and chit chat on social media and making no sense and just talk. They're gaff pot. We call them gaff pot and panhandlers. Gaff pot, pot and panhandlers and whatever else you want to call them. It's okay. But look, it's 2023, and I promise that I'm going to behave myself for now. Let me see you guys. Let's go down into history. Let's because I get some things I want to talk to you guys about. Let's begin with this. Where is this? I mean, this looks like Mucka. Does it look like Linden? Because we know what they have done. The racist installed Irfan Ali's regime. We know what they have done to the people of Linden. You guys remember this, right? Remember that is Lemon. Let's get the rolling. This is Linden. And what did the people of Linden what did they do? What about the MPs in Linden? What about the elected officials in Linden? The question is, what did they do then when this happened? You see, this is a pattern. It's a pattern of the PPP regime. We get into that, and we're going to give you guys some evidence as to why we think it's a pattern, not just basic opinions, but evidence and facts. And this is the lady again in Linden.
These people have no conscience. No conscience they don't have. None.
So you're seeing the pattern, right? And now let's get back to this photograph. Mucka, right? Or Linden? Where do you think this is? Just take a quick look. Bulldozing and breaking down people's homes and so forth. There seems to be a pattern. And I'll check some of your comments and see if you guys know what's going on. And whereabout is this here? The photograph on the screen. Bulldozing the people's homes and so forth. Just tell me. I'll just give you guys a good 30 seconds to tell me exactly what this is. Whether it's Linden, whether it's Alnes Village, whether it's Philippi, whether it's Eversham, or wherever. I'm reading some of your comments, and while I'm doing that, I just want to say good evening to all of you again. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me whether this is Mucka, whether this is Linden, or wherever. But before I wait, I know maybe some of you got it, maybe some of you didn't. You know, we oftentimes describe the situation in Guyana, and we describe it as apartheid Guyana. Well, the photograph that you're watching there is apartheid South Africa. This is the very thing that we are watching, that we are witnessing happening in Guyana, has happened in South Africa. Apartheid South Africa, where the people, look who the apartheid regime sent to bulldoze the people's homes and broke up the people's homes and destroyed the people's homes and so forth. South Africa, yes. Look at it. South Africa. You send them there to destroy the people's homes. That's what they do. And that is why when we describe the installed regime of Guyana currently, when we describe them or the country as apartheid Guyana, We know what we're talking about. This is apartheid South Africa. This is what the apartheid regime, the apartheid racist regime in South Africa did. Look, I noticed somebody said that that's Mocha. No, it's not Mocha. South Africa. South Africa. Take a look at this here now. We saw South Africa earlier. You saw what they did to the people there in South Africa. But let's look closer. Just come a little closer. Just a little closer. And take a look at what happened today. Not in South Africa. Because the first photograph you saw that happened in South Africa is over 2+ decades ago. But this is what's happening in apartheid Guyana. This is exactly what's happening in apartheid Guyana by a racist and corrupt regime in Guyana. Yes, 2023. This is what is happening in apartheid Guyana under the installed regime headed by Irfan Ali. Could you guys believe this? This is Mocha today. This is Mocha today. This was South Africa almost 30 years ago. South Africa almost 30 years ago. Mocha today. You get where I'm coming from, right? Mocha today. Mocha today. Mocha today. Mocha today. Yes. This is what's happening in Guyana. Welcome to Straight Up Again. My name is Mark Benshap. We still got a lot of things we want to talk about. But what's happening today in Mocha is no different than what the PPP, their agenda, whenever they're in office. This reminds me of a situation of what they did to the people in Tiger Bay. This was Tiger Bay. It's not South Africa, that I just showed you guys some photographs. This is Tiger Bay a couple of years ago. Tiger Bay. When they rolled up in there to bulldoze the people's homes, the people who have been there for over 2 decades, bulldoze the people's homes. This was when Irfan Ali was Minister of Housing. I repeat, this bulldozing of the people's homes occurred when Irfan Ali was the Minister of Housing. This is what happened. This was in Mocha. You see the headline says here, Tiger Bay residents face eviction by businessmen, quote unquote businessmen. And this is the owner of National Hardware, who claimed that he purchased that land back Tiger Bay there, and that he wanted his property. I know, pretty a good story behind this here. And this was the police. The police is always there on the scene, not to protect the residents, but to protect the businessmen, to protect business people, and to protect corrupt politicians in the PPP regime. That's the businessman standing there facing me. That's me there. And so when I met with the residents and I basically told them they have to stand up for their rights, and that's it, they're not going to be moved. So a couple of the the residents met with the businessman to negotiate, went in front of Irfan Ali's office. When it wasn't Brigdad, he was the Minister of Housing, to ensure that the people got a proper place to go, or to ensure that they get something worthy out of that. I remember that. And what did Irfan Ali do? What did he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was the Minister of Housing. What did he do? Absolutely nothing. Now, I want to bring Irfan Ali in. He hastily ran and he put together something. He went live on social media because the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're spending on NCN, hundreds of millions of dollars, your tax-paying money, they're not getting their value for that. So Irfan Ali rushed to social media for a couple of minutes and he murmured something. God in heaven knows what he tried to say about the situation today in Makkah. But I want you to listen to him for a couple of minutes, and then I will show you the contradictions and the hypocrisy, the usual hypocrisy and the contradictions from Irfan Ali, who sits there in Guyana as the installed president. And now, before we get into all of that, he's trying to say that it's a one Guyana and there's no racism, there's not. Just listen to the hypocrisy, and I'll show you the difference.
The type of political opportunism, lack of leadership, accurate.
All right, we'll try to figure out exactly what transpired there, but whatever transpired, we'll definitely get to the bottom of that.
I watched with dismay the type of political opportunism, lack of leadership, and irresponsibility exercised by some who refer to themselves as leaders in the political opposition. Leadership is about responsibility. Leadership is about understanding.
All right, let's stop there for a moment. He actually said leadership. Leadership is about responsibility. He is correct about that. I can't disagree with him. Leadership is about responsibility. I repeat, I can't disagree with him at all. Leadership is about responsibility. And definitely, we're not seeing that in Irfan Ali. We'll just touch about Irfan Ali now. Forget about the opposition for now. We're dealing with him. He said leadership is about responsibility. He is far from that. No leadership at all coming from Irfan Ali. But let him continue. Please, go ahead, Irfan.
To have a role to play in society that is positive, one that must be based on a level of trust and integrity, not one that is opportunistic and
1 second. 19 fraud charges. Still to this day cannot say which university he attended in order to acquire his undergrad degree or maybe his grad degree, whatever. He cannot say that. He's like that idiot that's where was it? He sworn in yesterday as Congressman DeSantis or whatever his name is. He's probably worse than DeSantis. He can't show which university he attended. This guy here, Irfan Ali, he cannot. 19 fraud charges. Again, 19 fraud charges. And this guy has the audacity to sit there and talk about trust. I can't. Can you believe that he actually is talking about trust? Former PPP minister, not so long ago, former PPP minister Irfan Ali arrested regarding Pradoville 2 housing scheme. Pradoville 2 housing scheme, Irfan Ali arrested, charged with fraudulent disposal of state lands. Fraudulent. 19 fraud charges. This is a guy who was on his way to Canada, and I presume that whatever the Canadian authorities have on him, they still do have that. And so he was prevented from going to Canada. He was blocked from going to Canada. And this is a guy who sits there and talks about integrity, talks about, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if you guys, I don't know. I see some people who should know better. Actually, some of them believe this guy and his nonsense. But I'll continue to show you the hypocrisy with this guy.
Later, and one that seeks only to divide and to use every occasion.
Wait, did he say divide and divide in every occasion? This is a guy who divides Guyana. This is a guy who's ashamed to say one people, one nation, one destiny. This is a guy who made up this one Guyana thing to give the impression that his installed regime believes in all the people of Guyana. That is not true. Look at what happened in Mon Repos. Look at how the people in Mon Repos were treated. Look at how they were compensated. Look at what happened with the other set of people who were fighting for justice on the east coast of Demerara. They got nothing. They got insults. And not only did they get insults, they got police and all manner of things. And this is a guy who's talking about equal treatment. This is a guy who's talking about equality for all Guyanese. Remember how those folks were treated up on the east coast of Demerara, right? You can't forget how they were treated. We just cannot forget that at all. Let's take a good look.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Light rounds, also I can see that.
So you see the difference, right? This is a guy who sits there and talks about, first he talks about what is honesty, leadership. This guy lacks all of that. All of that and more this guy lacks. 19 fraud charges. Can't tell us where he attended university, where he got his first degree, maybe his master's, who did his thesis, and all these manner of stuff for his doctoral, quote unquote, doctoral at the University of West Indies. I don't know, but let's continue. Let's continue. I would have been ashamed to even, if I were advising him or a PR, whatever, to have him sit there and embarrass himself with all these contradictions. But then again, he has no shame.
That you believe you can extract as the better message to the world.
Wait a minute. Did he say divisive message? This is a guy during the flood, the COVID pandemic time. You know, COVID still exists because people are still dying almost every day in Guyana as a result of COVID. But they're just covering that up. But during the COVID pandemic period, remember those COVID funds that they used as a method to divide Guyana, where some people got COVID fund relief and some people didn't get. You know the people that didn't get, right? I don't have to repeat that to you. You know that the people that didn't get the COVID fund. And you know the people who got the pink slips. And when they got those pink slips, what did they say in the regime? That they will return. Hold on to this pink slip for now. All because they look as though they're supporters of the coalition. Hold on to this pink slip. It has been over a year now, probably approaching 2 years now. The people still have the pink slips. Still, I hope, have the pink slips, and nothing at all. This guy is getting worse and worse every single day, and he's getting dangerous. He obviously is sitting there looking like a dark-skinned version of Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un, that little rattlesnake Roblox player out there in North Korea. Look at him. He almost looks like a dark version of Kim Jong-un. Madman. Let's continue, please.
To address very quickly today this whole issue and the movement of six persons who are legally squatting on government resource. Let's start from there.
All right. Illegally squatting on government resort. Illegally squatting. When certain people are on a piece of land, whether it's owned by the state, not the government, it's owned by the state, automatically it is squatting. It is squatting. And like I've said before, this regime has an agenda. And now let's break down this whole squatting thing. And people deserve to live. You guys remember this house, right? This was Jagde's first house, built when he was, quote unquote, the president of Guyana. This is on the east coast of Demerara. On the east coast. And, somebody would remind us about the area. But this is Pradoville 1. When they got into office, all those ministers under the PPP regime suddenly became filthy rich. Filthy rich. They got these houses, they put it up. All those houses you're seeing there, government land or state land that they took and they squat on the land. So it's okay for these folks to squat, but it's not okay for ordinary citizens to squat. When ordinary citizens squat, they're being evicted, they're being kicked out, their properties being bulldozed, and all manner of things. In this particular situation, back in 2000, when they started to construct this area that they're squatting on, they stole land belonging to the state, Pradoville 2. God in heaven knows whether they paid anything, but that is where most of the PPP then ministers got their mini mansions, so to speak. This property, the first that we are aware that Jagde owned, could be others, because he's really a businessman. Sue let us into that. So this property was sold before he started going over to Pradoville 2. Now, this property was sold to his friend Ernie Ross, a Trinidadian. Ernie Ross, for a whooping 120 million Guyana dollars. Somebody do the math. 120 million. 120 million Guyana dollars. See, the trench croppers are out. They can't take facts. We're not talking off the top of our heads or whatever. We're giving them facts. We are showing the evidence. 2010, land that was squatting on the land. $600,000 US. Thank you, Joycelyn. And it's Ogle. $600,000 US. This was 2010. $600,000 US. $120 million he sold that house for. Land that belonged to the state that they took up and they squat on that land. So this guy, Irfan Ali, I'm trying to break it down and show you guys the hypocrisy there, has no moral authority to talk about squatting and who shouldn't be squatting. These guys are the biggest. These guys are notorious squatters. their friends and their families and their concubines, etc., are squatters. They are known as notorious squatters. But before we go back to that now, let's head to this other. See this area here? It's not state land. This is ancestral land that was actually taken away from the people. Taken away from the people to construct this compound called Pradoville 2, owned and controlled by Jack Dale. And so at that time, he decided who he wants to be in that compound. Of course, Gary Best still lives there. He was then Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force. Jack Dale allowed him a little spot there in the compound. In the compound, Luncheon, Rohi, and all these guys in the compound. And now these guys have no moral authority to talk about who is squatting and who this and who that. And look at Rohi. Look at the statement, Rohi. Rohi defends acquisition of 1.5 million Guyana dollars exclusive Pradoville land. $1.5 million. 1.5. These folks want to talk. Anyways, since Irfan Ali wants to talk, let him talk a little bit.
Notwithstanding this, for the last couple of weeks we've been publishing for all to read in a very open, transparent way. All that we have done.
Hear this. He held that newspaper up to tell you guys for the past few weeks that they have advertised in this newspaper about what is happening and that people should just walk away from their properties out there in Mocha. Just walk away because it's advertised. Full page for weeks now, according to Irfan Ali. Look what they're doing with taxpayers' monies. Look where they're advertising in a pro-PPP newspaper that got like about 10 readers. Nobody reads the Guyana Times. I'm sure most of you don't even remember that there's such a newspaper in Guyana. Miss Barrington, you're correct. Who reads the Guyana Times? I haven't looked in the Guyana Times for years now. Neither the Chronicle. Who read those newspapers? But the bulk of state ads, and for this here, that full page ad is almost $500,000 Guyana dollars. $500,000 Guyana dollars. Nobody reads that. I'm sure nobody in Mocha reads this. Nobody at Allen's Village reads this, right? Crawford, nobody reads that. Nobody at Philippi reads it. Nobody in Sophia reads that. Probably nobody in Manripo reads that too. It's trash. But Irfan Ali feels comfortable to pick up this little rag of a newspaper that is owned by Jack Deer's friend and puts it up there and tries to convince people that they are in the right. And that's it. It's damage control. But in the process of damage control, he's doing more damage to the situation. But let him continue to hang himself. Let us hear what else he has to say about this full page ad. Oh, wow. We got to talk something more about the houses now. Let's hear him.
To have the seamless and smooth movement of those who are legally under, so that the road can be completed and to bring relief to tens of thousands of Guyanese families every day.
Look, hear what? Nothing is wrong with having new roads constructed and so forth and so on. Nothing is wrong with that. I am for that. I'm not against it. I'm just not against that, right? But hear the fraud in all of this. The area that they're targeting and why they want those individuals off of their properties, bulldozing those people, is that the lands alongside where they're constructing this road, check out who owns those lands. Check out who wants to put hotels. Check out who wants to put gas stations. It's not those people in Mocha. It's not the people in Tiger Bay. It's not the people in Sophia. You know what I mean, right? Check out who owns most of those lands alongside that very road that they're talking about. It's all business. And it's all some of those corrupt individuals in the private sector commission who want their land, who want to start building. It's all about their money. It's not about the people. It's all about corruption. So don't believe a thing that this guy sits there and he's murmuring about. Just don't believe him. I'm showing you the evidence. And hopefully I'll be more convincing than this guy. He's trying to sell you guys something that doesn't exist. He's trying to sell you guys some sort of reality only within his mind, a figment of his own imagination. There is no unity in his talk. He's not concerned about the people of Mocha. He's not concerned about their well-being. He's only concerned about business. He's talking about the road, but he's not talking about other things that they have alongside that road, like gas stations and so forth. And I'll give you a quick example of the Berbice River Bridge. That was an economic burden on all Guyanese, including PPP supporters who were upset at the exorbitant cost or fares to cross that bridge. They were upset. The bridge was built with your tax dollars, hundreds of millions of tax dollars. Money stolen from NIS, given to Jack Deere friends and cronies of the PPP to build that Berbice River Bridge. Is that what they call investment? Almost bankrupt the entire NIS, and so that hardworking public servants and others who contributed to NIS weren't able to get their pensions. Thanks to the coalition for saving the NIS. But the Berbice River Bridge, when it was told to Jack Deere that it is cheaper to construct that bridge away from the mouth of the Berbice River, Jack Deere wasn't concerned about that. He was more concerned about business. He was more concerned about corruption. He was more concerned about ensuring that his friends and cronies get part of the deal, compliments of taxpayers of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And so when he was told, when he was advised by reputable engineers that, look, you can't put the bridge at the mouth of the Berbice River. It's not going to last long. It's going to be far more expensive. But if you put it closer to Stanley Tongside into New Amsterdam, you basically revive that town, New Amsterdam. He was advised about all this, the economic aspect and also the cost of building that Berbice River Bridge. He ignored everybody, all because of corruption. And all because of what some may at that time suspect to be racism, that his agenda and the PPP's agenda was to kill the economic lifeline of New Amsterdam, kill the economic lifeline of Stanley Tongue and surrounding areas. So you take traffic away from there, you put it over to Palmyra side, and all the lands, when you cross the Berbice River Bridge from the Rosignol side, going over into Palmyra side, find out who owns, or the bulk of people who own those land on both sides of the road heading towards the Palmyra Road stretch. Find out that, and you'll understand what these guys are about. They're not about the people. And so for him, this guy now, Irfan Ali, who sits there and wants to convince people that he's so concerned about the people, he's concerned about the people of Mocha and their well-being. That's a falsehood. That's a lie. They're not concerned about the people. It's all about the mullah. It's all about the Benjamin for these guys and nothing to do with the people. Let's continue.
Now, what are the facts? The fact is this is a government reserve. Persons are illegally squatting along the reserve. 28 families today who were there on the reserve have peacefully been relocated. They understand the vision of development.
They understand the vision? They were coerced into doing that. Some of them were lied to. And these are people, I don't like describing people as poor people, but these people probably, for the most part, didn't know better. And so they fooled those people into moving. And some of those people were threatened. And that's a fact. And I'll show you guys some evidence later, but let's continue.
Not only were they relocated to nearby residential areas, but they have completely homes rebuilt.
All right. This is what he's saying. They have completely new homes rebuilt. Mucka Arcadia on the East Bank. A lot of you guys, maybe if you're familiar with that, I've gone into that area several times. Once many years ago when the PPP was in office then to protest because they were after the people for their land. It's not the first time. It is just not the first time. And so obliquely opposite, you get Mucka Arcadia. On the other side now, on the northern side, you have a housing scheme. Find out who owns those housing schemes. One of them, I think, is owned by Odinga Lumumba, I think. Odinga Lumumba, a big housing scheme and so forth and so on. And so what they want to do is to get all those people away from Mucka Arcadia, piece by piece, section by section, by pretending they're building roads into the community and we want the best for the people and we all manage. This is BS, BS. But let us get to the houses. Beautiful, comfortable homes, right? And you remember what they did recently. Lovely. Look at the top house. Beautiful. Look at the bottom house. The top house is for an elderly lady, 85 years old. It's okay. Probably the only occupant with, I think, her grandson, and that's it. But the bottom house that they paid $2 million for, taxpayers' money. And for those non-Guyanese who are watching, the bottom house costs 2 million Guyana dollars, which is equivalent to about 9,000 US dollars right there. And guess who is in that house? A family of 5 or 6 or 7. A family of 5 or 6, maybe 7, they have to be in that house. And so an installed minister of the regime, Edgil, drove all the way to Linden to take this picture of this house at the bottom there. A family of 5 or 6, maybe 7, maybe 8, and they're happy. This is the sort of success story they're talking about, right? Success story they're talking about. But the houses that Irfan Ali is talking about, look, let's take you guys back to Borbis. You see this little, you see, those are small houses, very, very small houses they're building. But Irfan Ali just spoke about 25 or 26 or whatever amount of people have accepted and they've gone into their new homes and they're happy and so forth. Take a look at that house. So they're evicting, they're bulldozing people, they're kicking people out of their homes that they've been for 2-3 decades. The people are surviving how best they can. They're not going out stealing, frauding people, and all manner of stuff. They're surviving. But Irfan Ali and his regime, they're happy about this. This is the house. This is just one example of the house that he's talking about. That he is happy about this. Look at what he's happy about. Right? Okay, sorry about that. Look at what he's happy about. Irfan Ali wouldn't live in this kind of house anymore. Jack Deere wouldn't live in this kind of house anymore. They wouldn't put their mom or mommy to live in this kind of house, or chachi or chacha. They wouldn't do that. Or Dabbit. They wouldn't do that. But look, he has no shame but to sit there and tell you guys that this is where they're putting the people. This is the house. This is the house. But before we get back to Irfan, this is the house he wants people to live in. This is Irfan's house. When he is 31 years old, he just became a minister. Just became a minister. And this is not propaganda, you know. You see this this was January 1st, 2012, when he was 31 years old. Look at the property he owned. He worked hard, right? He saved all of his money. He went to school, God in heaven knows which university. And look at his pool house. Look at his pool house alone. Well, this house he got, I'm told, from Gaisuko. So they're the only ones who could acquire these state properties, state assets. They're the only ones who can have access to these sort of things, right? And look at this pool house. And look at the house that he's proud of. Look at the bottom house he gave that lady for $2 million taxpayers' money, right? And look at the house he wants the people of Mocha to go into, and that he's so proud and he's so happy, and he just wants them to remove from that land over in Mocha so that they could build their roads, and everybody, thousands of people could have access. And the people who moved into this little house, you know, they understand the vision of the installed regime. All manner of gibberish, all manner of Jim Cockburn Ramgoat story he's talking about. But he wouldn't go there to live. In fact, he wouldn't even, his swimming pool is 3 or 4 times that. Look. You know, I'm not talking off the top of my head. Look. Look for yourselves what's happening there. Take a look, guys. And the hypocrisy of these individuals. Look at that pool house. I'm sure he wouldn't even go on top and take a dive, take a plunge. He probably wouldn't, obviously can't do it. You just can't do it, right? But just take a look. That's what I want you guys to look. And look what the people, this is going for $8 million, $5 and $8 million. Take a look. Yet he's happy. It's development, right? Development in the country. Development. Just like I indicated earlier to you guys about this here. I didn't tell you guys, though, this is Pradoville 1. And this is the house that Jack Dale first owned, officially that we know of, could be others, that he sold for 120 million Guyana dollars, which is 600,000 US dollars, right? But what I didn't tell you guys, what they did to the people at Ogle. And the same Jim Cockburn Ramgoat story they said then about the people squatting, and they had to chase the people away because they didn't want the people living opposite them. And they said that the people were squatters and all manner of things they said. This was one of the guys. This was one of the people. This guy name is Civic. They broke down his house with his wife and about 4 kids, young kids. He was there. Dozens of other folks were there. But why do I remember Civic? It's because when I turned up on the scene about 11 o'clock the night or 10 o'clock in the night, I ran into all these people that the PPP were breaking down their homes with police. They beat a couple of people who didn't want to be removed. And so Civic and his entire family, it almost brought tears to my eyes. But you know what? Confrontation, good confrontation, gets results. It shakes any despotic regime. It shakes up any racist and corrupt or murderous regime. And that is why I'm upset with the opposition. A lot of them don't have the guts. A lot of them are not brave enough to confront the regime. But we'll talk about that some other time, right? Let's talk about Civic. Civic now, we've decided, because I took his entire family, put them in my vehicle, and brought them to Georgetown in front of Jack Deer's house when he was staying there at in Queenstown. That building now is being rented to the Russians, Rusal. I don't know. If we do a state audit, we probably find out that Jack Deere may probably own that building. We don't know. But the Russians, that is where Rusal bauxite company is, that's not sure if it is sold to them. I'm not sure whether Jack Day is the one getting the rent, but somebody needs to look into that. But Civic and his entire family and others who came out that night, Civic had his mattress, put it in front of Jack Day's house, and laid there for about, about 2 hours or so. We protested and protested and protested until the police came, locked this man and his family up, put them in Alberton Police Station. One went to Brickdam Police Station and locked them up for a night. Jack Day and the PPP did that. And they called this guy a squatter. They called the other guys squatters. So they're always with this squatting thing, and the squatters and squatters and squatters. You know what the PPP did to this guy and his family? The PPP destroyed this guy and his family. To this day, he still cannot catch himself together. If you see Civic, give him my regards. That's how vicious, that is how evil the PPP regime is. Extremely evil. And so when we talk, we give facts. We don't just talk off the top of our head. We love to give facts. But let's get back to this guy here now and his trash.
Through a government compensation program, notwithstanding the illegal occupation, this government is a caring and responsible government of all.
Cannot be a caring, cannot be a responsible government. This government, this installed regime, in fact, they have gotten into office through fraud, fraudulent means, fraudulent elections. They're not a caring regime. They're a corrupt regime. They're a vindictive regime that has been going after opposition politicians. They've been going after ordinary citizens who do not support this racist and corrupt regime. They've been trumping up cybercrime charges, fake cybercrime charges against people, fake charges against people, locking up opposition folks, and so forth. So this installed regime cannot be a fair, cannot be a caring regime. It's a corrupt regime, and it's a murderous regime that is in bed with drug lords, money launderers, fuel smugglers, and men, so-called businessmen who are wanted by U.S. law enforcement agencies. But let's continue.
All its citizens. We not only remove those that we ensure that you are compensated and adequate housing.
If you ask, compensated how? Adequately housed? Where? Oh yeah, we know where, right? Adequately housed. We know where. We know exactly where. Let's continue. We want to hear some more of his lies. Propaganda. It's not even selling. Not even a nursery school. Even if there's a nursery school in IFLOT, it's not selling, Irfan Ali. Whoever advised you to come on for this 7 minutes to talk baloney, it has done more damage to you than anything else. But continue.
There's 7 individuals who remain non-compliant.
Now, non-compliant, and he's upset about that because they refuse the illegal order. Again, this woman is one of them. That woman needs to be saluted. She defied the illegal order of the illegal regime. And I say thumbs up to this woman. Thumbs up. And so he's upset because of that. And because they're upset, they decided that they're going to go and make the lives of those 7 persons miserable in order to send a message to others. That is what they have done to the people of Mocha. But I want the people of Mocha to know, as I want others to know, that it is okay to stand up for your rights. It is okay to stand up for your family's rights. It is okay because, as the late Congressman John says, good trouble, right? Good trouble. It's okay for good trouble. And that's what Nima Flew Best has been doing, along with some residents who are brave enough to stand up. Good trouble. Nothing is wrong with that. But let's get back to big trouble.
And continue to stall every single effort in building this road and continuing development.
No. Wait a minute. You see what he's doing there. He's putting the blame on those 7 persons that they're obstructionist. This road and this road. There's an East Bank Road somewhere in Stelling side, and when you pass the Demerara Harbor Bridge, there's a housing scheme to your left as you head towards the airport. Find out who owns that housing scheme and find out what happened when they wanted at that time to do the same thing that this guy is talking about, that they want to build some road. That road on the East Bank, just starting from Stelling side, they wanted to expand the road. But ask what happened, because there were houses that were built by one of their cronies, so-called businessmen, that they couldn't expand the roads or that road. They just couldn't do that. So this, what he's talking about, is baloney. It's all about business. It's all about money and less to do with the people or any vision they have. They have absolutely no vision at all. But he's bent on having the road supposedly run right where the people are, right where they have been for about 28, 30 years, right there. It couldn't go anywhere else. And so the whole intention, the idea, is to get those people away from that area because they don't want the place to look like a shanty town, so to speak. They want the so-called businessmen who are close to the PPP, who got deals there, who got lands there, who got their ideas in terms of putting up hotels and gas stations and so forth and so on. That is what he's talking about. But of course, he's not going to tell you guys that, right? Let's hear a little more.
Making very unreasonable claim and refusing to vacate the land that they're illegally occupying. What does the ministry offer them today? The ministry has offered them to relocate in completed homes on legal land, which they will have titles for, which will increase their net value, which they can take to the bank and have a loan free of cost.
If there are people, vendors who have been vending for so many years, walk into a bank or banks and are denied loans, there are individuals who are on legal structures, their house, they have their titles to their homes and all these things, and they're refused by the banks. Even a $500,000, even $1 million. You just heard what he said there, right? Propaganda again. So many people have so much sad stories that they can tell you guys about what happened to them when they walk into the banks with their titles. Lots of stories. So again, propaganda.
The ministries offer them, and that offer remains, as I speak to you, to move into these communities, into homes, to have a better life. And that is not all. That is not all. We offer them through the lands and survey. Land so that they can plant and farm if they are farmers and they want to plant. Not to stop.
The farmers out in Linden, they bulldoze those people's sucker trees, planting trees, banana trees, and all manner of things. They did that. They're not concerned about farming. They're not concerned about those things at all. They destroy people's crops. They've been doing that every time they're in office. So please don't buy into that. They're not concerned about farmers. He did say that they're working with lands and surveys. You know how many people's lands and surveys took away, illegally took away? They're sending people illegal letters to remove from lands of the Linden-Soesdijk Highway and all manner of things. So everywhere they go is the same Jim Cockburn Ramgoat story. They are destroying people's crops. They are destroying people's lives. They're destroying people's homes and all manner of things. Yet this guy has the audacity to sit there and pretend as though he cares. The evidence suggests otherwise.
Having all of this, moving from legality, from unstructured to structured, from no net value to net value.
Wait a minute. Forget about him and illegal and all this. We know what goes on with the PPP. But when you look at this house and this, he's talking about net value. You take this title to a bank. How much you think that person can get from this? Let's be realistic. Let's speak economics for a second. How much value? You're a bank, you're a loan officer, and I am in front of you here telling you I have a property. Here's my title. How much loan you think you'll give me on this here? 25 million, 35 million? I don't know. So lots of discrimination, lots of racial discriminations in the banks in Guyana. Lots of, but drug lords and money launderers could walk into the banks and get any amount of loans they want. Any amount of loans. But a vendor at Border Market or Stabrook Market, or somebody, a single mom out there in Mocha, trying to make a living, walks into the bank. You think the bank gonna give her a loan? Just a question. Let's spend a couple minutes more because I'm kind of tired of listening to this guy.
These seven persons.
Now, you know he didn't want to say person, right? You know he just didn't want to say these seven. He's like so angry that these folks don't want. He's so angry because it's messing up the deal. It's messing up the business deal. So he's angry. Look at his body language. Look at his facial expression. And these seven, you gotta say, you know what, there, right? All manner of nasty things going through his mind. These seven persons, he realized that he's actually live. So he had to say persons, even though he didn't want to say that, right? Body language and facial expression tell a different story.
Refuse to remove. They refuse to remove. In the newspaper, we have all seven names, the evaluation, what is offered to them in a very open and transparent way. So there is no political.
So he's talking about openness and transparency and so forth. Why don't they do that with the bids and so forth when they go to the tender boards and all these different things? You don't believe in openness. You don't believe in transparency. So stop the BS. He just doesn't believe in that. But let's continue.
Mileage or opportunities that we extract from this. I ask and I urge these families not to be used as political tools and pawns of a few who are only angry at the development of our country. All of Guyana, every reasonable person can understand that what the government has offered is above and beyond. When will some of these so-called leaders in our country understand what is required?
So he doesn't want people to have a different political view. People must just buy into the crap, to the garbage, to the lack of the visionless stuff that they have. And because people don't buy into this crap, this so-called one Guyana, which is what we know, the communist nature of that. And that's why majority of Guyanese are not buying into that one Guyana crap. They're not. People have a right to have a different political view, different political opinions on whatever. But this guy doesn't believe in that. And so he is the last person on earth to talk about who has political leadership and people shouldn't be nobody should be listening to you. In fact, you're sitting in office through fraudulent nature. In any other part of the world, you would have been charged and probably in jail. Let's wrap up with this guy, please.
Why to take this country forward? And they're thinking about the value that will come to every house in Mocha now with this new highway. The net value of every home will increase. the net worth of every citizen will increase. You're building the entire infrastructure out in Maka that they neglected. Passing a new 4-lane highway through there that they neglected. Increasing the value of...
Let's talk about neglecting. This is the same guy for 23 plus years they've been in office and neglected the people of Guyana. But specifically, we'll stick to Mocha. They have neglected the people of Mocha. I don't know when last you guys went into Mocha. For the 23 years they've been in office, they refused to put proper lights in Mocha. They refused to give the people proper water in Mocha. They refused to build proper roads in Mocha, so forth and so on. All of those things they have refused to do. But suddenly, they care about the people of Mocha. Do you think where Lumumba, Odinga Lumumba has, I'm told, mind you, has a so-called housing scheme? Do you think they're going to run the road through there? And do you think they're going to tell Odinga Lumumba that he has to break down those houses? No, they're not going to do that. But they're going to go right into the heart of Mocha because their objective is to destroy Mocha, is to relocate the people of Mocha and basically take over the community with their cronies, their business cronies and their friends, some drug lords and money launderers and gold smugglers and so forth. Watch who owns a lot of those lands along this so-called road that they're talking about. Just keep an eye on that. Watch what's happening. I've had enough of this guy. I've had enough of him. I've got to go. Had enough of this guy. They want to live here. That's where they want to live. Irfan wants to enjoy his property. These are the kind of homes they want to live in. They're the only ones who can live there. Folks looking like this woman got to be dumped into this. And this is the so-called vision that they have for people like her. Friends, listeners, please don't buy into the propaganda of the regime. Do not buy into the propaganda of the regime. Stand up for what is right. Protect your interest. It is democracy. And like the late Congressman John Lewis said, good trouble. Sometimes it is necessary. Good trouble is necessary. The question is, are those opposition politicians ready for good trouble? Unfortunately, majority of them aren't ready for good trouble. They want soft trouble. Turn up on the scene, take a quick photograph, and that's the end of the situation. But I'll touch on those lazy opposition politicians who are an embarrassment for what is happening. Maybe God knows why. Some of us are not in Guyana, because I would not have been there in Mocha and allow the bulldozer, allow the police to do that to the people of Mocha. God always knows why. But for now, God bless you. I'll see you back hopefully tomorrow. But let's pray. Let's pray for the people of Mocha. And the Honorable Member of Parliament, Nima Flubes, thank you for your bravery. Thank you for standing up. Maybe next time around, we'll have you as leader of the party. Who knows? God bless.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Margaret Scott, straight up from the root. Margaret Scott, who tell the truth. Margaret Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Margaret Scott, radio station is the fruit. Margaret Scott, straight up from the root. Margaret Scott, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the...
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.